Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Able Seaman Oliver Marriott. Today we commemorate the creation of the Royal Australian Navy and the Australian Army. After the Federation of Australia came into existence on the 1st of January 1901, one of the first acts of the Commonwealth Government was to create the Department of Defence, which came into being on the 1st of March 1901. On this date, the states transferred the naval and military forces to the federal government. By the following year, the two existing arms of the Australian Defence Force were recognised as the Commonwealth Naval Forces and the Commonwealth Military Forces. The Australian Army came under the command of Major General Sir Edward Hutton, who took on the task of transforming 6 colonial forces into one national Australian Army. The Australian Navy was initially constrained by belief that the maritime protection was to be provided by Britain's Royal Navy, but steady revitalisation at the hands of Director of Naval Forces, Captain William Creswell, and Prime Minister Alfred Deakin marked Australia's early steps towards naval and maritime independence. The Australian Naval Defence Act of 1910 provided authority for a navy no longer limited to Australian territorial waters. From these humble origins, the Royal Australian Navy and the Australian Army have established proud records of service. Many Australians have served, and some have fallen. Today, we pay our respects to the men and women commemorated here on the Roll of Honour and to the survivors who returned home. We are honoured to acknowledge Vice Admiral Michael Noonan, Chief of Navy, Commodore Don Desenjay, Commander Fleet Air Arm, Royal Australian Navy. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial, as well as students on behalf of the following schools: King's Baptist Grammar School from Adelaide, South Australia, and from Queensland Heights College, Rockhampton, and City Point Christian College from Brisbane. Australia's Federation Guard is the tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catapult party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Hello Party, attention! Hello Party presents arms.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is earth by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Hello Party, shoulder, arms. Hello Party, order, arms.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Acting Sub-Lieutenant Antony Jeffrey Hulan. Known as Tony to his friends and family, Antony Hulan was born in East Melbourne on the 26th of February 1943. He joined the Royal Australian Navy in 1966 as a midshipman and was promoted to Acting Sub-Lieutenant in 1968. He completed training as a pilot in Iroquois helicopters in 1968 with the US Navy in Florida. That year, he joined the second contingent of the Royal Australian Navy Helicopter Flight Vietnam, which had been formed to support US and South Vietnamese ground forces. This unit of Australian Navy aviators and support crew fully integrated into the US Army 135th Assault Helicopter Company. It was the only such integrated US-Australian unit in the Vietnam War. Known as EMU, the experimental military unit, the unit took on the large flightless bird as an ironic mascot and call sign. The motto of the company also had a uniquely Australian ring to it: get the bloody job done. Pilots of the 135th Company flew US Army Iroquois Huey helicopters in two configurations, the gunship and troop transport, or SLIC. Hulan flew as a pilot of a transport helicopter. He and the men of the second contingent arrived in Vietnam in September 1968. In October 1968, Hulan distinguished himself during a difficult mission in Quien Hoa province. A fellow EMU helicopter had been shot down during a troop landing mission, and Hulan braved heavy enemy fire to successfully rescue the four-man crew without taking casualties. In November 1968, soon after the second contingent had arrived in Vietnam, the 135th Company moved to the American base Bearcat in Bien Hoa province. From there, the unit flew troop lift, combat assault, and support missions in the Mekong Delta and nearby provinces. This included insertion and extraction of US, Australian, and South Vietnamese soldiers into and out of battle, with their helicopters and crews often coming under heavy ground fire. The long flying hours and difficult conditions also took a toll on the pilots and ground support crew. On the 3rd of January 1969, Hulan was the pilot of a helicopter flying from Bearcat Base to the Seven Mountains area, a distance of about 225 kilometres. Despite low cloud and fog, he and the crew were determined to complete this important resupply mission. Soon after takeoff, just before dawn, his helicopter hit power lines near Saigon. He and 3 American soldiers on board were killed in the crash. Hulan was 25 years old. He is interred at Mount Thompson Memorial Gardens in Brisbane. Acting Sub-Lieutenant Antony Jeffrey Hulan is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among more than 500 Australians who died while serving in the Vietnam War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Acting Sub-Lieutenant Antony Jeffrey Hulan, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Catapult party, shoulder, arms.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They have no grave but the cruel sea. No flowers lay at their head. A rusting hulk is their tombstone, a fast on the ocean bed. They shall grow not old as we that are left to grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Catapult party, present, arms.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Catwalk party inwards. Turn. Catwalk party, quick march.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrubber Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen and students, that concludes the last post ceremony. We'd like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.